Western media often paints North Korea as a technological desert, a country with infinite propaganda posters but no Wi-Fi. It's easy to assume that home delivery in Pyongyang means a state official dropping off your weekly rice rations. Yet, in recent years, North Koreans have gradually developed their own socialist digital economy, from homemade smartphones, food delivery, to cashless payment and intranet shopping. Nowadays, the North Korea flagship e-commerce site, Manmulsang, offers around 30,000 different products, from housewares to electronics, and now even promises delivery to all parts of the country. Launched in 2015 by a domestic IT company, Manmulsang has been dubbed North Korea's Amazon, and by 2017, the state-run press boasted it could bring goods to the whole country via a nationwide courier system. It's a far cry from the hermit kingdom stereotype. Just imagine, a North Korean in a provincial collective farm community orders a rice cooker online and actually expects it to arrive at their door by the next day. In this episode, we explore the unlikely reality of the North Korean digital economy, a burgeoning ecosystem operated under the watchful eye of a regime that embraces convenience as long as it doesn't threaten the supreme leader's absolute control. We'll see how cutting-edge tech and old-school authoritarianism blend into a unique Juche consumer culture. But before we start, here's a brief message. This episode is made possible by the generous support of our channel members. They are the true patriots of our channel economy and monthly contributors to our video productions. Your loyalty ensures that we can continue investigating topics no one asked for. So, dear viewers, if you haven't, please consider joining us. Thank you. Now, back to North Korea, where the citizens are conditioned to believe that buying domestic soap via an intranet platform is the apex of technological modernity. Buckle up, let's dig in.
It has emerged Chinese tech giant Huawei may have secretly helped North Korea build a 3G wireless network. Citing related sources, the Washington Post reports Huawei helped the regime establish and maintain a 3G wireless network for over 8 years. It also explained that internal documents.
Before any online service, there must be smartphones and telecom providers. North Korea's journey to a smart society has been somewhat unorthodox. It all started 2 decades ago, when mobile phones were a rarity reserved for the elite. In 2002, Pyongyang had its first very limited cellular trial through a Thai 2G provider, and this breakthrough network was called SunNet. What a great name! For a brief moment, the country flirted with modern internet connectivity. However, a 2004 train station explosion, rumored to involve a phone-triggered device, made the North Korean government hysterical. Suddenly, a nationwide ban swept across the kingdom. Oops, the network was discontinued, though it already had 20,000 users by that time. Then, in 2008, a change of heart, or the sudden stroke of our dear leader, led to a deal with Egypt's Orascom Telecom. It seems the treasonous Uncle Jang, who was worse than a dog, was ready to bring the 3G service to life. The new network, Koreolink, began operating in Pyongyang in December 2008 and instantly became the most exciting thing for the North Koreans. Pyongyang citizens, as it turned out, craved such connectivity. By 2015, there were already 2.5 million mobile users in a country of 24 million. And today, cellular coverage extends far beyond the capital. Since the signals have reached deep into rural provinces, by estimate, between half and 80% of adults now own at least one mobile phone. For many citizens, the cell phone was their first telephone ever, since landlines never penetrated most homes. North Korea quietly leaped into the mobile age from a pre-cable era. A society once totally offline now has cheap call and text bundles and a bustling trade in second-hand phones. Nowadays, the so-called domestic smartphones are commonplace in the kingdom, though in a very distinct flavour. North Korea has a homegrown smartphone industry with brands like Arirang, Pyongyang, JoongAng and Blue Sky. These smart devices are advertised as locally made Android phones, but in reality, they just import outmoded parts from China and assemble them in some random factories. An investigation showed that the JoongAng 7 model, introduced in 2020 and touted as an indigenous smartphone, was actually identical to a Chinese budget handset, right down to its Android operating system and hardware specs. Other North Korean phones, such as the Arirang 171 and the Pyongyang 2423, are technologically supported by Chinese companies like Gionee. Essentially, North Korea imports off-the-shelf smartphones, refurbishes them with Juche-approved software, and rebrands them with patriotic names. When Kim Jong-un famously inspected the May 11th factory, beaming at the Arirang smartphone's supposed domestic production, it's pretty certain those devices came from Shenzhen and only had some minor socialist tweaks. Still, these phones are genuinely in the hands of North Koreans, with an estimated 6 million mobile users in late 2019. Even outside Pyongyang, markets now buzz with traders coordinating through telephones, and young people in cities kill time with mobile games and social apps on locally branded touchscreens. College students and the younger generation have become the main smartphone user group, with about 70% of the city population reportedly owning a mobile device. Of course, a North Korean smartphone is not quite so smart by global standards. It's locked down for your protection. These phones run on a tightly controlled cellular network. North Koreans cannot access the global internet on these devices. There's no Facebook, no Google, no outside websites at all. Instead, phones connect to the country's internal intranet, known as Kwangmyongmang, translates as bright light net. This closed network, launched in the early 2000s, hosts approved domestic websites, including various educational resources, science papers, cooking recipes, and propagandistic news, plus offering an email service. It's essentially a parallel internet sealed off from the world. North Korean intranet sites even have their own format. They don't use .com addresses, but rather numeric IPs starting with 10 that only resolve internally. Every smartphone comes preloaded with the national Nayanara browser and a few apps about the Juche idea. Ordinary North Koreans' phones are completely walled off with no international calls or foreign web access. But still, citizens can use their phones for lots of things. Web surfing inside the intranet, emailing, online shopping, ordering food delivery, but only within the bounds of state-monitored content. Monitoring is, unsurprisingly, omnipresent. A North Korean smartphone is both a tool of communication and surveillance. State tech agencies have developed custom spyware that comes pre-installed on domestic devices. One application, called Red Flag, keeps detailed logs of every website you have visited, and even randomly captures screenshots of the phone's screen every 15 minutes. Another app, tellingly named Trace Viewer, allows authorities to retrieve and view those logs and screenshots, and users cannot delete the protection apps. You know what? Big Brother is in your pocket. In mid-2022, the government took this a step further by forcing all smartphone users to install a new Intranet app as a condition for renewing their quarterly phone service license. This app does provide access to some intranet services, such as your daily dose of Rodong Shinmun newspaper, but it also gives the state real-time remote access to the phone's location and usage. Security agencies can literally track where a user goes and see if they've been viewing any illegal media on the device. Knowing this, many users were reluctant to install the Monitor app, but they had no choice if they wanted to keep their phone numbers active. Or, the best alternative plan to avoid it is to buy the mandatory license through black market brokers for a higher fee. So, North Korea's smartphone boom comes with a built-in leash. People can text, play games, and even learn English on language apps, but everything must be pre-approved and has been censored. In effect, North Korea has engineered a peculiar compromise. Embrace the convenience of mobile tech to develop the economy and make life easier, while using a parallel digital infrastructure to avoid the perils of information free flow. The intranet means a university student in Pyongyang can research chemistry formulas on a tablet, but cannot look up Wikipedia for the names of foreign movie stars or make any friends abroad. Phones allow for instant communication, which even the socialist planners recognize as a great help to business. Cell phones now underpin North Koreans' private economy by connecting suppliers, buyers, and distributors in the grey markets. Yet that same connectivity is a double-edged sword. So the network must be heavily surveilled to prevent it from fostering any political dissent or exposure to imperialist ideas. The regime has essentially built a digital walled garden. Inside it, a surprisingly vibrant mobile culture is blooming. Outside, the Great Firewall stands firm. And as we'll see, this garden now contains everything from shopping apps to delivery services.
North Koreans are being given their first chance to shop online, in a country where access to the internet has been traditionally restricted for the majority of its population. North Korea has had a domestic web or intranet for many years, but very few people have had access to a network connection to use it. Now the government has launched a new online shopping.
Surprise, surprise, online shopping has quietly taken root in North Korea's major cities. The first e-commerce experiment began around 2015, when the government's People's Service General Bureau, a state body tasked with public services, launched an intranet-based shopping website called Okryu. Okryu, named after the famed Okryugwan restaurant, is often credited as the country's first online shopping mall. It went live in April 2015, and initially it served Pyongyang only, offering a limited selection of goods for order. Back to the beginning, you can find a decent variety of products on this site, ranging from basic household items, simple food products, to over-the-counter medicine, a few cosmetics, and, true to its name, the signature cold noodle from the Okryugwan restaurant. Although the delivery time is not guaranteed, the Okryu Mall proved that the concept of online shopping worked, at least for the privileged urban class. The service gradually expanded to other cities. Sources indicate that by 2019, residents in regional centres like Pyeongseong, Nampo, and Sariwon could also use Okryu to order items for home delivery. Today, North Korea's intranet hosts a small constellation of e-commerce sites. They are known by names that sound quaintly local. Aside from Okryu, there is Nainara, Abnal, Kwanghung, Unpasan, and the aforementioned Manmulsang. All are essentially electronic stores operating on the closed network and run by the People's Service Bureau. Among them, Manmulsang has become the most famous. It was celebrated as the nation's Amazon for its wide range of merchandise and immense popularity among the populace. And surprisingly, Manmulsang even briefly appeared on the global internet. A version of its homepage visible to the outside was discovered, showing categories of goods and company information. probably a deliberate propaganda move to showcase the incredible convenience and the great advancement of the DPRK technology. In 2021, one could browse 5 main product categories: cosmetics, foodstuffs, health medicines, local specialties, and handicrafts, with around 249 items listed and descriptions of the domestic manufacturers providing them. The interface looked surprisingly modern, complete with a search bar, product images, and even an icon-based menu for different departments. If not for the Korean script and the iconic Paektu Mountain logo, one might think they were on a simplified Amazon page. However, when curious outsiders tried to actually shop on Manmulsang's website, they found no prices or checkout button. It appeared to be more of an online catalogue showcase than a functional international store. The real transactions likely happen on the intranet version or via domestic mobile apps, accessible only inside North Korea. Still, the presence of such a site underscores how far the concept has come. North Korea wants to show the world, and perhaps its defected people, that it too can do e-commerce in its own way. The Okryu platform remains a centerpiece of this digital marketplace. Unlike Manmulsang's broad department store approach, Okryu started strongly tied to food services. Initially, Okryu let people order from certain restaurants and shops in Pyongyang for delivery. Over time, it evolved into a more comprehensive shopping app, offering roughly 600 of products beyond just pre-prepared meals, sourced through partnerships with domestic factories. Okryu's partners included the Pyongyang Sock Factory, the Ryuwon Shoe Factory, the Sonhung Food Factory, and even a cosmetics factory in Sinuiju. In other words, Okryu acted as a centralized online marketplace where various North Korean manufacturers could list their goods, and consumers could browse them all in one app. This is remarkably similar to e-commerce models elsewhere, minus any foreign brands or open competition. Everything for sale is domestic and presumably vetted for quality by the state. Notably, Okryu, as mentioned, is always a food delivery app that allows ordering from popular restaurants and service complexes. One could order the famous Pyongyang cold noodles from Okryugwan, or specialty roasted seafood from the upscale Haedanghwa dining complex. In essence, it combines an Amazon-like general store with a DoorDash-style food delivery service.
North Korea is in a fight against outside information. And according to people who have recently defected, like this man, the regime has been stepping up censorship efforts.
Using these platforms is straightforward if you're privileged enough with the right connectivity and bank account. You can simply log in via the intranet, either on a computer terminal at home or through the official mobile app. The sites are said to be real-time updated with inventory and new items. Users can add items to a virtual cart, then proceed to check out using a prepaid card linked to their bank account. Specifically, the platforms use a system of prepaid debit cards, commonly referred to as the Wings card, which customers charge with funds at a bank and then use for online purchases. Entering your card details or authorizing the e-payment online, and once the payment is confirmed, the user can request home delivery, providing their address and contact info. From that point, the order goes into a logistics pipeline operated by the state. Don't forget the delivery fee. Sending a parcel costs around $2 to $3, depending on specific requests. The People's Service General Bureau operates a dedicated logistics office to handle deliveries. This office coordinates a fleet of motorbikes and vans to transport orders from the shops or warehouses to the customers. For short distances and smaller packages, like your cold noodle delivery, they'll dispatch a motorcycle courier. For larger orders or longer distances across the cities, they may use vans or trucks. In 2017, the Tokyo-based Choson Sinbo newspaper reported that Manmulsang's delivery service had expanded nationwide, suggesting that even outside the Pyongyang area, there are distribution hubs that receive and forward packages. How fast and reliable is it? Hard to say with precision, but North Korean media have showcased smiling delivery workers and claims of timely service. It's safe to assume delivery is not instantaneous. Roads can be poor, fuel is often scarce. Yet the very notion of door-to-door delivery is now part of the consumer lexicon there. North Koreans now can shop from home via their phones, a concept that would have sounded like science fiction to previous generations. In fact, the key to North Korea's logistic network was the rise of the Servicha, an informal delivery vehicle network. Servicha is a North Korean term blending service and car. These contractor drivers will contact the customer by phone and arrange to meet at a set time and place to hand over the goods. Since precise addresses remain a luxury, even the leader's wisdom can't solve. In the early years, many people outside Pyongyang didn't bother with the Okryu app because electronic payment systems weren't well developed in rural areas yet. There are other limitations. For instance, ordering clothes or shoes online remains difficult, perhaps due to sizing issues or supply constraints, whereas food items and daily necessities are commonly bought online without any issue. In those cases where the app or payment doesn't work, customers simply use an old-fashioned method to call the store. In fact, phone orders for delivery are common. You call a shop, order rice or oil or other goods, and they will deliver to your home. Payment on delivery. The apps have not completely replaced phone calls, but they are gradually taking hold among the tech-savvy. It's a hybrid system still, where the new middle class experiments with online ordering, while others rely on call-in orders.
We are entering North Korea. You can open a bank account here, but obviously you're subject to international sanctions if you do that. There's somebody in the group who actually did it. Looks like this, just for information purposes. So I'm gonna exchange now 10 Chinese yuan into the...
Arguably, the most tangible sign of North Korea's digital revolution is the sight of delivery couriers zipping through Pyongyang with goods and meals. Not long ago, delivery was limited to ration distribution or maybe a bicycle courier from the local restaurant for VIP customers. Now, thanks to services like Okryu and Manmulsang, a food delivery culture is emerging, especially in major cities. The change is encapsulated by one anecdote. During a 2018 heatwave in Pyongyang, the daytime temperatures were up to 35 degrees Celsius, and many residents turned to the Okryu mobile app to order cold noodles from Okryugwan and have them home delivered, rather than braving the sun to eat at the restaurant. According to a local source, more and more people prefer ordering food online over calling on the phone, simply because it's more convenient. North Koreans, like anyone outside the kingdom, appreciate the privilege of skipping the queue. Delivery is not just limited to restaurant meals. It appears that entrepreneurial store owners started adopting delivery as a way to expand their business. Not only foods and grocery items like rice and cooking oil, but the sellers also deliver bento lunchboxes for picnics or take large meal orders for special occasions, like a 70th birthday of the Workers' Party or Lunar New Year. Just make sure to arrange it in advance. A modest form of the on-demand economy has arrived in North Korea's upper-middle-class life. In an irony of history, the same regime that once mandated that urban residents go out and perform unpaid manual labor is now enabling some of those residents to stay home and let the goods come to them. Even the coffee culture has slightly penetrated Pyongyang, signaling the shifting mindset toward consumerism. It was unimaginable decades ago to have a cafe shop right at the center of the Juche capital. However, coffee shops and European-style bakeries are catering to the budding middle class. Think about it. Nobody really needs to drink coffee, let alone spend money on it. But Pyongyang residents do accept the coffee culture as a lifestyle. Indeed, coffee is the kind of minor luxury that North Korean propaganda used to dismiss as bourgeois frippery. Yet now Pyongyang has upscale Vienna-style coffee shops, and local instant coffee brands have appeared on store shelves. One can imagine a young professional in Pyongyang using the Okryu app to order a latte from such a cafe, or a tall iced Americano for delivery to their office. A scene that would seem surreal to their parents' generation. Yet, it's important to stress that this convenience is enjoyed by a minority. The average North Korean in a rural county is not whipping out a smartphone to summon a meal. This is largely a privilege of the Pyongyang elite and the rising middle class in other major cities. Those who can use these services typically have a stable income in foreign currency or participate in black market trades and have access to prepaid debit cards. Ordinary workers or farmers largely continue to rely on physical markets. How many people have enough money to deposit in a bank? Ordinary people don't. That's why they don't use phone apps to make payments. For most, cash is still king, and going to the market yourself is the norm. But the trends are noteworthy. North Korea's state media now proudly talk about delivery services as an achievement, and private conversations reveal that, especially among youth and the new rich, having things delivered is seen as modern and fashionable. It's the same impulse driving consumer behavior everywhere. If you can afford to save time and effort by paying someone to bring something to you, you will. Pyongyang's citizens are no different, except that their delivery comes with a side of state oversight and is limited to state-approved goods.
We're currently at the Manmulsang.
Exactly, Hangso coffee shop.
Hangso coffee shop on
Lombok Street, yeah.
Lombok Street in Pyongyang, right next to the volleyball court.
Yeah, where we had volleyball matches in September.
Cool. I would not like to have a volleyball match in this weather.
North Korea's leap into e-commerce and delivery would not be possible without an accompanying evolution in payments. Handling money in the DPRK has always been a peculiar affair. Multiple currencies, black market exchange rates, and a history of distrust in banks due to sudden currency reforms. Yet, a cashless payment ecosystem quietly emerged and is designed to support the consumer economy. It began with simple debit-like cards in Pyongyang and has now progressed to QR code-based mobile wallets. This transformation both enables the new digital marketplaces and gives the state another channel to monitor and manage transactions. The first generation of North Korean payment cards appeared around 2011. These were essentially prepaid debit cards issued by state banks. Two brands became prominent in Pyongyang: Nare card and Koryo card. Nare means wings in Korean, an adequate name for something meant to help money fly from your pocket. These wings cards were introduced by the cabinet-controlled Trade Bank. The following year, the state's Koryo Bank launched the counterpart Koryo card. Both cards were initially tied to foreign currency accounts, likely aimed to capture the dollars and euros that North Korea's emerging entrepreneurs were accumulating. They are deposit cards. The user could deposit foreign cash at a bank and load the value onto the card, then swipe the card at designated stores instead of paying cash. Around 2014, these electronic payment cards were accepted in many Pyongyang department stores, supermarkets, and hotels, any venue frequented by the elite or foreign visitors. In fact, foreigners who visit the kingdom could also obtain a Nare card with a foreign currency deposit, though there might be a $500 limit for overseas guests. The visual design of these cards often mimicked international credit cards, complete with a chip and a magnetic stripe. They wouldn't look out of place in a wallet next to your Visa or MasterCard, except perhaps for the Korean script. In August 2015, a new player joined the game, the JoongAng Devotion card, issued by the central bank. What set JoongAng apart was that it was denominated in local Korean won and explicitly aimed at ordinary citizens, not those spending foreign cash. It signaled an effort to broaden cashless payments to the general public, perhaps to encourage people to keep money in banks and to modernize the financial system. JoongAng card works like a standard debit card. You preload won into your bank account and then use the card to spend from that balance. The timing coincided with the expansion of intranet shopping, as e-commerce sites like the Okryu online mall were being rolled out. The electronic payment infrastructure was also being put in place to support it.
버겁하고 더 많은 인공지능 기술들이 활용되면서 개인 정보 말단 장치로 발전하고 있습니다.
1초당 수메가바이트 이상의 광대역을 가진 거정통신망에 비해
North Koreans traditionally mistrusted banks with good reason, but seeing others use these cards for convenience, more people in Pyongyang cautiously adopted them for everyday purchases at department stores, gas stations, and restaurants. Shops, in response, began installing card readers and made card a common payment method in Pyongyang. The most recent technological leap has been mobile payments, which effectively turns smartphones into wallets. Around 2019, North Korean tech media started talking about QR codes and phone-based payment systems. To catch up with the trend, North Korea was adopting a scan-to-pay system. Shoppers could scan a code on a product with their smartphone to check the info like the item's expiration date and make the purchase. The use of QR code payments was being actively promoted in the country. The 6 million mobile users provide a critical mass for mobile payments to take off. In October 2020, the Central Bank and Pyongyang Information Technology Bureau made a public announcement that they had developed an electronic mobile payment system named Unlim, meaning Echo. The details on whether it uses NFC or other technology, and indeed by 2020, North Korean state TV aired segments showing citizens in stores making purchases via QR code scan. Shoppers at the Chukjeon Kyonghung department store were shown buying a flat-screen TV and paying by pointing their smartphone at a QR code on the register, a code linked to the Manmulsang e-payment app. The phone screen displayed the Manmulsang app interface as the transaction took place. Pro-North Korean media claims that it has become difficult to find shoppers paying in cash in Pyongyang, as many are using electronic payments on their smartphones. This might be an exaggeration for propaganda purposes, but undoubtedly the government is pushing digital payments hard. Why would a regime that traditionally loved physical cash suddenly promote cashless payments? One reason is efficiency and modernity. They make e-commerce possible and speed up transactions. But another big reason is control. Digital payments leave no grey area for any black market. It's much easier for the state to monitor and regulate the flow of money when it moves through bank accounts and apps, rather than in untraceable cash. Yes, the socialist paradise is using cutting-edge fintech both to facilitate consumer convenience and to tighten its grip on financial surveillance. In 2023, the Supreme People's Assembly even adopted a new law on electronic payments to formalize and regulate this burgeoning ecosystem, which perfectly underscores how significant it's become. In summary, North Korea's cashless payment infrastructure has evolved from golden plastic cards for elites to QR code scans for the masses in the span of a decade. The country has effectively built a miniature version of the fintech innovations seen in neighboring China, starting with prepaid cards to mobile wallets and QR codes. But everything was implemented within a closed, state-controlled loop. It's fintech with North Korean characteristics, convenient, somewhat efficient, but ultimately another arm of the state's monitoring apparatus.
But most of these launchers, the rich people, are actually the descendants of core class.
Oh.
Yes, they are the people either of the present high-ranking officials or the descendants of higher-ranking officials. So actually,
all these developments, smartphones, online shops, deliveries, e-payments, beg one simple question. Who in North Korea is actually driving and benefiting from the digital consumer economy? The short answer, the emerging middle class, especially in Pyongyang, plus tech-savvy youth and entrepreneurial traders across the country. The North Korean e-commerce revolution is a story of social stratification as much as technology development. In a nation long defined by egalitarian slogans, a distinct class of consumers has arisen who have the means and know-how to partake in these conveniences. They are often called the donju, literally masters of money, a moniker for North Korea's new rich, or at least new middle-class entrepreneurs. Over the past 20 years, as private markets grew, North Korea started having its middle-class citizens. They include business people who trade goods domestically or across the Chinese border, employees of foreign currency-earning state companies, party officials, and military officers' families, and a younger generation of well-educated IT professionals who have discretionary income. As early as 2015, there was a proliferation of consumerist behaviors. Nail salons, cafes, fashion boutiques, cosmetic shops, things once unheard of, were popping up in Pyongyang. This growing middle class was splurging on cosmetics, imported fruit juice, smartphones, and foreign clothes, reflecting a new appetite for material comforts. These are exactly the people using the digital services. They want the latest locally branded smartphone to watch state-sanctioned shows imported from China and message friends on the intranet. They order imported coffee or craft beer at the new cafes or pubs. They might not blink at paying a small fee for delivery if it means more convenience. They are the ones buying rice cookers on Manmulsang, booking taxis through an app, and scanning QR codes to pay for their Italian gelato at a fancy shop. Demographically, the mid-30s and 40s age group is key, old enough to have money, young enough to embrace the cutting-edge tech. Also, university students and the youth are major drivers of smartphone adoption and likely influence their families' habits. An affluent household in Pyongyang might have the grandparents still going to the store with cash, the parents using a Koryo card at times, and the teenage son teaching them how to order snacks on the Okryu app and pay with a scan. Beyond the tech-saturated Pyongyang, Rason has always been another outlier. It's a place where North Korea experimented with quasi-capitalist reform and foreign investment. Tellingly, Rason was one of the first areas to get mobile phone coverage back in 2002, as the Rason residents and officials needed to communicate with Chinese and Russians there for international business. Today, Rason's traders probably utilize mobile phones heavily, and some even use smuggled Chinese SIM cards near the border to communicate beyond censorship. North Korean media mention a North Korea-China-Russia international e-trading network, set up in cooperation with a Chinese company, clearly aimed at connecting Rason's trade hub to online commerce. The people in these special zones are a unique subset of the middle class. They're more outward-looking, often bilingual, sometimes trilingual, and relatively more entrepreneurial. They stand to gain from any digital platforms that ease trade sanctions and smooth cross-currency transactions. Merchants are a particularly important group among the users of e-commerce. Market traders with capital investments use the apps to order goods in bulk for resale in the local market. This is fascinating. It means the state-run online shops are indirectly supplying the private markets. A trader might find it easier to tap into the official distribution through an app than to physically travel to Pyongyang or China to source goods. This also hints that the state doesn't mind its e-commerce being used as a wholesale channel. It shows a symbiotic relationship. The donju get inventory, the state companies get sales, and the everyday consumers get goods. Interestingly, some of those loaded with cash were not busy online shopping. One defector said she deliberately didn't buy too much via the new services because she worried authorities would get suspicious about where her money came from. That is a lingering fear. If a person of relatively low official status is suddenly ordering expensive items, it might trigger an investigation into their finances. The state still castigates too much private wealth, unless you're politically protected from the top. So buyers have to calibrate their conspicuous consumption. That's part of why the very flashiest luxuries are enjoyed mostly behind closed doors. For example, Kim Jong-un's own family can import luxury goods with impunity, like the $1,900 Dior handbag or the furry coat that made news. But if a regular cadre's daughter flaunts a Dior bag, the party would raise eyebrows. The middle class may instead indulge in homegrown luxury substitutes, like premium North Korean cosmetics, rather than blatantly indulge in foreign luxury. In short, North Korea's consumer revolution has a very defined demographic. It's the urban, connected, relatively affluent minority, possibly 10 to 20% of the population at most. They are the ones for whom these systems were built and are pulling the country into the digital age. The state, in a sense, rewards their loyalty and productivity by giving them these perks that would be unthinkable for average citizens a generation ago. The majority still lives a simpler, more traditional life economically. However, even those on the margins undoubtedly hear about these innovations. A farmer in Hwanghae might not use Manmulsang, but he might have heard from a relative in Pyongyang that you can buy things on a computer now and they deliver them, just like magic. That can both inspire hope and perhaps fuel envy or frustration at being left out. The regime has to manage that, which is likely why they also allow those lower classes to benefit indirectly through the retail market. North Korea has managed to introduce 21st century consumer technology without the accompanying 21st century openness. It has smartphones without free internet, online shopping without Amazon or Alibaba, cashless payments without any connection to global finance, and delivery scooters zipping under portraits of Kim Il-sung. Marxist-Leninist systems traditionally frowned on consumerism as a capitalist decadence. North Korea, for decades, prioritized heavy industry and the military, dismissing consumer goods as secondary. Yet here we are. The DPRK has nurtured a consumer class that behaves not unlike consumers anywhere, chasing convenience, new gadgets, better food, and fashion. This middle class, by engaging in these online activities, is forging a subtle social contract with the regime. We enjoy a bit of comfortable life, and in exchange, we don't rock the political boat. The regime likely hopes that satisfying these material desires will placate potential discontent among the educated and affluent who might otherwise question the lack of freedoms. It's the classic approach of bread and circuses, updated for the digital age, or perhaps rice cookers and smartphones in this context. North Korea's new consumers get a taste of global modernity, and the regime gets to claim that its people are prospering under socialism. Looking ahead, one wonders how this digital consumer economy will evolve. Will it continue to grow, bringing more of the population into its fold? Or will it hit a ceiling because of sanctions and the country's limited productive capacity? As of now, it's impressive that even under heavy international sanctions, North Korea has expanded its domestic consumer services. They've done so largely by substituting imports with domestic products on these platforms, and by building tech infrastructure with whatever foreign help they could covertly get. If sanctions persist, the range of goods available on these online malls may remain quite limited. You won't find a genuine iPhone or Italian luxury handbag on Okryu. But if sanctions ever ease, or if the state decides to open up a bit more, these platforms could quickly begin to list more imported items. Already, there's anecdotal evidence that Chinese fruits or confectionery sometimes show up in Pyongyang supermarkets for those with foreign cash. The online analog might follow suit if allowed. One day, Manmulsang could quietly feature imported shampoo or foreign-made TVs if policy permits. In any case, the infrastructure is in place for a more connected consumer economy whenever North Korea's politics and economics allow it. One cannot help but end on an image. A young Pyongyang couple sits in their high-rise apartment on Hwasong Street. They have just ordered dinner via the Okryu app on their tablet. As they wait, they watch state TV on their flat screen, which extols how blessed they are to live in a powerful, nuclear-armed nation. The doorbell rings. A delivery person has arrived with their meal: hot noodles, some imported-style snacks, maybe a bottle of local beer. The couple pays using their JoongAng debit card via a small card reader the delivery man carries. Or perhaps they just scan a QR on their bill with a smartphone. The transaction is done, and the delivery man bows and leaves. The couple enjoys their food in the privacy of their home. In that ordinary yet remarkable transaction, we see the paradox of North Korean life in 2025. Technological convenience and comfort, delivered by a system that remains politically oppressive and insular. It's a reality that's both hopeful and haunting.